Good evening and welcome to the Bhagavatam. Today we're reading from the 11th Canto, chapter 22. And this is part of the Uddhava Gita. So thank you for being here. Today we enter this profound conversation between Bhagavan Sri Krishna, Supreme Godhead, and his devotee Uddhava. The final teachings that Krishna gives as he concludes his earthly pastimes. In this chapter, Krishna explains how the universe unfolds from him and how the soul can rise beyond matter to real liberation. So, Uddhav has many questions, and they're really profound. So let's get started. All right. So Uddhav expresses, his questions with tremendous humility. He says, "O Master of the universe, you once spoke of 28 elements, the elements of the universe. And yet others," he says, "speak of 26 or 25. How can so many counts be true?" So Uddhav is actually asking a very important point. Sometimes there are different opinions between philosophers. Sometimes there are many different opinions between different spiritual paths. And often we tend to think in terms of, well, this is true, and if this is true, then that must be false. That's how the mind works. The mind thinks in terms of either or. If this is true, then that is false. It's very hard for the mind to be able to conceive two opposite things about the same thing. How can something be black and white at the same time? How can something be right and wrong at the same time? And you'll notice now how Krishna answers this. So once again, just to remind you, he's telling Krishna, you speak about 28 elements. Let me go over those elements for you in a moment, and then let's explore them further. So what are these 28 elements of creation that Uddhava is talking about? The first of them is Bhagavan, or God. The second is Jiva, the soul, each of us. The third is the Mahatattva, the primal potential energy. This energy is that from which everything comes. If you talk about a field of possibilities, if you talk about a field of potential energy, that's from which the energy of the universe arises, and that's called in Sanskrit the Mahatattva. It's an extremely important principle to understand, and physics today talks about it. Quantum physics talks about it, the field of unlimited potential. That is the Mahatattva, and that is spoken about in the Bhagavatam 5,000 years ago. So, to continue that list, then there is Ahankar, the false ego. And then there is Manas, the mind. Now that's 5 of them. Then there's earth, water, fire, air, and space, or the 5 elements. There are 5 working senses: speech, hands, legs, genitals, anus. These are called the 5 working senses. There are then the 5 knowledge acquiring senses: the nose, the tongue, eyes, skin, ears. 5 of those. Then you have the 5 objects of knowledge. The 5 objects of the knowledge acquiring senses. That is, the nose to smell, the tongue wants to taste, the eyes look for forms, the skin wants to be touched, and the ears seek sound. The 3 modes of nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. So all together we have the 28 elements of existence. So again, to come back to our original point, some philosophers say there are 28, some say 26, some say 16, some say 13. How can so many counts be true? That is Uddhav's question. And you notice his humility is beautiful. He does not argue, he inquires. He recognizes that truth is one, yet viewed in many ways. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that Vedic knowledge is not meant for academic speculation, but for liberation. So people will often take up Srila Prabhupada's points that he brings up and say, oh, no, here it doesn't say this word is not yoga, this word is meant to mean yoga, but not bhakti yoga, or this word is meant to mean deva, but not God, or demigod, or whatever else the argument might be. But you see, there's two kinds of learning. One is academic learning, and the other is realized learning. When someone has realized the essence of a topic or a teacher, if someone has realized the essence of what Krishna is saying and he's receiving that information in disciplic succession through the agency of gurus that go back all the way up to Krishna, then we know that that interpretation, that understanding comes with the ultimate goal in mind. It's not enough to just be right. It's not enough to just be accurate. It is important to attain the goal. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada writes that Vedic knowledge is meant not for academic speculation, but for liberation. I want you to contemplate this. Is so, so important. There's the technical reading of something. But then what is the purpose? What is the intent? And if we understand the intent, then everything makes sense and everything fits within a certain spectrum or within a certain perception or a certain vision or a certain way of looking at things. But when you look at it just purely academically, well, you have no vision, you have no particular lens that you're you're not seeking a particular outcome such as liberation or mukti or bhakti or whatever else it might be. You're just doing it from an academic, intellectual point of view. That's good for you if that's what you want. But those who are genuine seekers and those who want that genuine outcome of love of God, who want that bhakti, that devotion, those who want liberation, they want the understanding to fit their outcome. So that's a very different way of looking at things. Now, different philosophers categorize the universe differently, but who knows the actual answers? Our brains are very limited. And some of us think we know a lot. Some of us think we're very smart. And there are very smart people on this earth. There's no doubt about that. But it is only the Creator who created all of this who understands it perfectly. We might sit here and speculate about physics and chemistry and biology and so many other subjects. But the true understanding of these things is only there with the one who created it. We are just delving into stuff, trying to understand how it's all put together. It's like someone who takes an iPhone, let's say, and opens it up. Right? There are channels that do that. They open it up. And then they try to figure out, okay, they put this here and they put that there and they're trying to do this and they're trying to do it that way. But it's the company that made it in the first place that has the actual answers as to why they did what they did and how it is to be best used and so on. I think you get the point. So the same with the creation. We can have our understanding, but it is only the Supreme Lord who knows the complete reality. If you think about it, even scientists disagree about the basic stuff of reality, atoms, strings, energy. All these describe partial truths. Until we acknowledge the ultimate source, Krishna, our knowledge remains fragmented. So now we come to the next portion of this question, where Uddhava we're going to be discussing philosophers and the Lord's mystic potency. So here, Krishna replies, because all elements pervade one another, sages analyze them differently. So we talked of those 28 elements, right? They often blend into each other. And Therefore, when you start to count them, the numbers might be different. The analysis might be different. He says, all sages who are under my mystic potency, he says, even though they have diverse philosophies, they understand that each of these arise from God's own energy. And each one of them, these philosophers and different interpreters of the Vedas or of who have their own understanding of reality, each one reveals a different facet of the truth. Think of the truth like a diamond. And that diamond has many sides to it. Which side is the correct side? And there might be a side that is not carved up, okay, but the main face of the diamond, its many edges that you have, they're all different facets of the same truth. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, the approaches are not contradictory, they are different angles of the same diamond. When we fix our mind on Krishna, debate ceases. Like colors merging in sunlight, varied opinions resolve into one reality, the Supreme Person. See, when we hear different takes on the Shastra, on the scripture, on the understanding of God, sometimes even different religions, one who has a broad perspective, a deep understanding, is able to integrate, let's say, the Bible or different other texts that are there, the Vedas and so many others, and see in each of them the truth of what their original teachers were trying to say. It's really amazing. You can even sit down with poets who are deeply spiritual, and you can find the depth of what they're trying to say. I've often done this in reading the works of Rumi, or reading the works of Gibran, or reading the works of even the Bible. And people have said, how is it you understand it so profoundly? And I know you haven't even studied as much as they have. And the answer has really been, my study of the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam has given a broad perspective, a wide open lens with which to be able to extract beauty and wisdom and truth from everywhere. And that's how it needs to be. It's not about either this or that, either right or wrong. You're either for God or against God. No. You can find truth even in the atheists. You can find beauty even in their argument. It's up to you. So the example is beautiful here, like colors merging in sunlight. Varied opinions resolve into one reality, and your focus is on the Supreme Person. In a modern parallel, you could say different faiths, different sciences all seek the same light. The problem is ego. Once ego bows to God, understanding blossoms. That is an incredible way of thinking about it. Once our ego bows to God, truly bows. I don't mean that those who go and they bow down and they make a big show of it and it's part of a ritual, and sure, they do all that. But that's not really bowing down to God. Bowing down is when you let go your ego. You let go your idea of what you think is right or wrong. And you submit that God is trying to show you something, and you just listen and you try to extract that and try to understand that. So once ego bows to God in that sense, then understanding blossoms. See, even disagreement can be seen as divine will. Krishna says the very arguments of his philosophers are moved by his energy. It is my insurmountable power that creates their analytic disagreement. It is my insurmountable power that creates their analytic disagreement. See, when you're dealing with something so vast as the Supreme Godhead and the universe that He's created, rather the billions of universes that He's created, right? Then that insurmountable power is, when we look at it, our small little creatures, ant-like creatures, atomic little creatures that we are, when we look at this incredible universe and this fabulous creation that we see all around us, all we can do is come up with our interpretations, and that is going to lead to analytic disagreement. But that is natural. So why would God do that? Why? We could use that disagreement to have conflict with each other. We could use it to fight with each other. We could use it to have wage war with each other. Or we could use that disagreement to teach us humility, to teach us that I don't know. And even though I think I know, and even though I might be some learned scholar, if you are, I'm not, then even then to understand that I don't know. The great Socrates would say, to know that you do not know is the greatest step to knowledge. That's humility. And when we have that humility, we understand that logic fails to capture the infinite. But where logic fails, the heart learns to surrender. A child may debate the shape of a rainbow until he looks up and sees it. So too human reasoning finds peace only when it looks up to the Supreme Being. Prabhupada quotes Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th Canto, chapter 4, text 31. He says, acting from within the hearts of all philosophers, he, the Supreme Godhead, causes them to forget their own souls. So acting from within the heart, he's seated in everyone's heart. Krishna says, I am seated in everyone's heart. From me alone comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So here Prabhupada is quoting a verse where he says, acting from within the heart of all philosophers, he causes them to forget their own soul. Why would he cause them to forget their own soul? Somebody tell me. Disagreement is part of God's plan to bring soul to faith. You see, in our disagreement lies the roots of deeper understanding. In our misunderstanding lies the key to true understanding. Because when we follow misunderstanding, we will bump our head and we will find ourselves not in that space of God. We will find ourselves in a space of arguing with people. We will find ourselves with our ego flaring up. We will find ourselves trying to be right and trying to make others wrong. And as long as we are doing that, we're not in the frequency of God. Right? So it's okay to disagree, but to agree and disagree are all part of the same thing. They are part of the mind. You're still at the level of the mind. To go beyond the level of the mind is to be able to see even differing viewpoints simultaneously and find the truth in both of them. I've often had this statement where I say, this and its opposite are simultaneously true. This, whatever you think it is, right? Let's say A and its opposite, let's call that A minus, are simultaneously true. If I tell you this is black and someone else says it is white, then it is up to me to be able to find the truth in both those statements. Because something makes that person say this is white. I don't know. It doesn't look like that to me, but maybe it is. I need to see where is that what is it in that person's perception, in their way of thinking, in their way of looking, that makes it look the way I cannot see. It makes them see what I cannot see. So disagreement is thus part of God's plan to bring souls to faith, to take us beyond our knowing and to take us to a place where we begin to have faith in Him. Okay. So now, let's talk about the next one, unity through devotion. Krishna says, those who fix their intelligence on me and control their senses see no difference. Those who fix their intelligence on me and control their senses see no difference. So really it's coming down to this. Our perception varies because our minds are colored by what are referred to as the three modes of nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When the heart is purified by bhakti or devotion, everyone sees the same truth. Srila Prabhupada writes, so-called philosophers search for the truth, yet they think the one who has found it is less intelligent than the searcher. Let's read that again. So-called philosophers search for the truth, yet they think the one who has found it is less intelligent than the searcher. What do you make of that? The one who has found it is less intelligent than the searcher. That's what they think. They think that searching is all that it is, to keep on and on questioning unlimitedly. But sometimes you have to listen. Sometimes the answer is not with us. Sometimes the answer is not in the seeker. Sometimes the answer requires us to humbly inquire from someone who is truly elevated, evolved, enlightened, awakened, realized. True wisdom is devotion. When love awakens, argument ends. In families, we see this, and in teams as well. Unity comes when we serve a shared purpose. Similarly, when we serve Krishna, intellectual differences melt into harmony. Unless, of course, you're bringing your ego along with you as baggage. Unless, of course, you're bringing your need to be right, or your need to control, or your need to possess, or your need to... Then all of that baggage will mess everything up. There will be no harmony. When you serve Krishna without the ego, then intellectual differences melt into harmony. We can have them, and it doesn't matter. So, let's look at the interpretation of elements. Krishna explains next that each element, those 28 elements, contains the others. The subtle resides in the gross, and the gross resides within the subtle. We talked about mind, intelligence, ego. We talked about the knowledge acquiring senses. We talked about the objects of the senses. So those 28 elements go from subtle to gross, right? Subtle then resides in the gross, and the gross resides within the subtle. Because creation is a chain reaction, one may count different levels of cause and effect. Creation is a chain reaction. So here the comparison is made to a clay and a pot. Clay exists in the pot, and the pot is made of clay. Hence, different enumerations are valid depending on perspective. Ultimately, all elements rest in the Supreme Person. Let's take a look at this a little further. Cause and effect. Every element contains traces of its causes, showcasing the intricate relationship within creation. The clay pot analogy mentioned here, that clay pot manifests from clay, emphasizing how existence emerges from a single source while maintaining its distinct forms. And then the third point that is being made here is that there is one truth and many views. Different perspectives exist, yet they converge towards the singular truth that binds all elements in divine unity. Different perspectives exist, yet they converge towards the singular truth that binds all elements in divine unity. Wow, I love that. Prabhupada writes, Krishna consciousness is the ultimate scientific method for understanding the universe. Science describes the mechanism. Bhakti reveals the mechanic. That's fascinating. Science describes the mechanism, the machinery. They notice all that's going on. They see how it works. But bhakti reveals the mechanic, the one who designed it, the designer, the creator, the mechanic. So for all of this, there is need for a spiritual teacher, a guru. And there are 3 points made over here. Krishna states that a soul covered by ignorance, the mode of ignorance, tamas, cannot understand truth by himself or herself. He needs one who is already enlightened to impart knowledge. See, you can go to as many non-realized persons and ask them, they will all give you different opinions because they have not experienced that thing. They have not realized that thing. I can ask, let's even a simple task. If I wanted to go to have food at a certain restaurant, I can go ask 20 people who have never been there what the food there might be like. And they could look at the menu and they could speculate and they could imagine and they could guess. But only one who has been there can give me actual feedback as to what it was like. And even then it's subjective. They may have liked something and I may not like that same thing. It can happen, happens all the time. So Krishna states that a soul covered by ignorance cannot realize the truth by himself. He needs one who's already enlightened to impart knowledge. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas sattvadarshina. So he says one should go not only to someone who is a jnani or who is in knowledge, but who is tattvadarshi. He has got insight, experience, realization of that knowledge. That person can impart knowledge unto you. Not someone who's just got theoretical knowledge. No, that won't work. It has to be tattva darshi. Tattva means that principle, that truth. And darshi means one who has seen it, who has realized it, who has experienced it. That person can truly impart knowledge unto you. Some philosophers speak of 25 elements, others 26. The difference is whether they acknowledge the Supreme Soul separately from the individual soul. Supreme Lord here refutes impersonal speculation. The soul, the Atma and Paramatma are qualitatively one, but quantitatively different. The soul and the supersoul, the Atma and Paramatma. The Supreme Being, God, although residing in his own realm, also exists in all of creation as Brahman, exists within every atom of the creation. At the same time, he exists within every one of us. That doesn't mean we're God. He is there as the witness, as the sakshi, witnessing everything that we are experiencing everything through us, watching us. It's not that he wants to have the experience. He's just there by our side, holding our hand, ready to guide us, ready to connect with us whenever we're ready. He is the closest person to us, and yet we think we're alone. But he has been with us always, lifetime after lifetime. So devoted is he, so committed is he, so loyal is he, so faithful is he to each and every one of us, that he stays with us life after life for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, while we insult him, reject him, get busy with material things, get busy with our desires, keep on trying to fulfill them, hoping that one day we'll turn to him, hoping that one day we will seek him. So, while there is some truth that the soul and supersoul, the Atma and Paramatma, are qualitatively one, they have the same qualities, right? Just like water is wet, fire is hot. Similarly, the Atma and Paramatma have the same qualities. When I say water is wet, so the same water could be in a drop, the same water could be in an ocean. Both contain water. A match can light a flame, But you could have a huge bonfire or a forest fire, and that can have a massive flame. Very different power to a forest fire versus a match, a drop of water versus an ocean. Huge difference, right? So similarly, there's a huge difference between the Atma and the Paramatma, the Supreme Lord who is within us as the witness, and the soul, who is the one who is experiencing everything. So that's what it means. They're qualitatively one. They have the same qualities, but quantitatively they are different. Refusing to accept the Supreme Lord's or the Lord's supremacy leads back into illusion. See here, what you'll find is that modern day self-help gurus say that find the God within you, but they forget the person beyond you who placed that divine spark there. That being, that supreme being, they just want to impersonalize God and say, oh, find the God within you. Oh yeah, but who put that spark of divinity within you? That supreme being who placed that spark of God within you, one needs to acknowledge him. So true self-realization means realizing both our own eternity and our eternal relationship with that supreme being. So that we could call qualitative oneness, understanding the distinction between the infinite and finite spirit forms. The spirit manifests unity, transcending the finite distinctions of material existence. So next verse talks about knowledge in the mode of goodness. And when knowledge is in the mode of goodness, sattva gun, it recognizes no qualitative difference between God and the soul. Both are spirit. So in quality, they are the same. Both are spirit. The God's energy, the form of God, is Satchit Ananda. Ishvara Parama Krishna, the Paramishwar, the supreme controller of all creation. Ishvara Parama Krishna. He has what? Satchit Ananda Vigraha. His Vigraha, his form, is not made of material substance like ours is. His form is Sat, eternal, Chit, conscious, and Ananda, blissful. Our body is not eternal. It is conscious because of the presence of the soul. When the soul leaves the body in itself is not conscious. It is the soul that is conscious, but not the body. Sat, Chit, and Ananda. And blissfulness is not the nature of this body. You give it something nice that it likes, that it wants, then it will have a moment of happiness. But that happiness is not Ananda. Ananda is that which is eternal happiness. That happiness which cannot be taken away. You cannot take Ananda, blissfulness, out of the soul or even out of God. You cannot. So when people say, oh, God is a wrathful God. No, he's not. He's never wrathful. He is Ananda, Anandamayo Bhyasat. He is eternally blissful. Try to understand this. He is eternally young, Navayovanam cha. And he is eternally conscious. He doesn't go to sleep, doesn't need to sleep and become unconscious. He doesn't need to get drugged and, like go into some kind of altered state. And he doesn't die and therefore never really loses consciousness. So as such, God and the soul are made of the same stuff. They're qualitatively the same. Yet we think we are independent. And this independence that we think of in ourselves, that is useless speculation. Because we are not independent. We are. It's a funny thing that we think we're so independent. How independent are you? Can you stop breathing? Or are you dependent on the air? Can you stay away from the sun? Or are you dependent on needing sunlight? Can you stay away from food? Can you stay away from water? Can you stay away from letting your heart beat? Can you stay away from doing the things you need to do to survive? No. You're controlled by all of them. Your boss controls you, your family controls you, your body controls you, your body has its urges, those control you. You have desires, those control you. You have needs, those control you. We are constantly controlled, and yet we think we are independent. Everything is controlling us. We are at no time independent. We are 100%, 1000% dependent. And we live in the illusion, I'm independent. I'm free. It's the biggest joke. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches Achintya Bhed Abhed Tattva, that we are simultaneously one with and different from God. So this is important to understand, that we are the distinction between the infinite and the finite spirit forms. The spirit manifests unity, transcending the finite distinctions of material existence. What does this mean? We are simultaneously one with God, as in same, and yet we are different. We have the same qualities of God, but we are so different. We're different from each other even. As such, there is no difference between that which lies within me and that which lies within you and that which lies in every single being, including the animals, the insects, the trees, the plants. That life force, there is no difference between us, any of us. And yet we are all different, unique in every way. And so it is between us and God. There is no difference at one level, and at the same time we are completely different. We are simultaneously one and different from God and from each other. This is called Achintya Bhed Abhed. Bhed means different, and Abhed, non-different. Tattva. Tattva means the principle of being inconceivably, simultaneously one with and different from God or from each other. When knowledge becomes purified, it's called Vishuddha Sattva, we see spiritual variety within the oneness, like many waves on an ocean. So one ocean with so many waves on it. Similarly, within the oneness, when you're able to have that level of awareness of the oneness of all things, you will also see that within that oneness lies spiritual variety and variegatedness. At the highest level, when somebody has that perception of oneness, those who go deeper into that oneness realize that within that oneness lies so many forms, so much variety. Just like the one ocean not only has so many waves on it, but has so many creatures within it. Whales and dolphins and fish and all kinds of creatures. So think of the sun and the sun ray. The ray is not separate from the sun, yet it is not the sun. Similarly, we share the Supreme Lord's nature. We have the same nature as He, but not His infinity. So now, the next part talks about the modes of nature and time. Krishna then teaches that nature exists in the equilibrium of the three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. So we talked about the modes of nature: goodness, passion, ignorance. We'll talk about it a little more in a minute. But when they are in equilibrium, that's nature. That's what nature is all about. Equilibrium. And that's why you feel so good when you go into nature. You feel peaceful because nature is in harmony always. Whatever is going on in nature, even if what is happening is the leaves are falling and it's fall, or snow is falling, or animals are hunting each other, that is all part of how nature is designed. And so within nature, when you sense the energy of nature, there will always be harmony and equilibrium. Everything is happening in perfect harmony and equilibrium. And so these three modes of nature, they are responsible for creation, maintenance and destruction. The creative energy is the mode of passion. The maintenance energy is the mode of goodness. And the destructive energy is the mode of ignorance. So Srila Prabhupada quotes from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 27, the bewildered soul thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by nature. The modes of nature, goodness, passion, ignorance, operate like software. The living entity, the soul, is merely the user within the system. Now, time agitates these modes, pushing everything towards change. Without time, matter remains inert. When there is no time, matter remains inert as pradhan. So to give you an analogy, it's like a movie projector. The film reels exist, but only when the light passes through them does the story appear on the screen. Time is that light. Time is the Supreme Lord's glance. When he glances upon the pradhan, upon the energy, then that energy takes forms, and that manifests time. And when time mixes with the elements of nature, then they start to move, not only taking different forms, but also creating various effects. Those energies act upon us. People know that, for example, astrology, that the stars act upon us. They know that the seasons act upon us. We know that other people's actions act upon us. We know that our mind acts upon us. However, there is a greater force, and that is the three modes of nature. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, goodness, passion, ignorance. These are the bigger forces that are acting upon us, and that mixed together are forming our entire experience. One who comes to the mode of goodness will find themselves peaceful, and their mind is open, and they're able to understand higher subject matters. They're able to be more philosophical. They're not interested in being right. They're interested in learning and finding that which is the highest truth. Param Satyam Dhimahi. And then there are those in the mode of passion. They want to make things, do things, create things. They're passionate. They also want to be right. They're also very affected by their own passion. It controls them. So not only do they want things of the world, but they also want to be right. They also want to be powerful. They also want to be famous. They also want all these things that so-called successful people want. But real success is not that. Real success is finding that peace, and from that peace finding God. And people in the mode of ignorance, well, they're in the state where they're depressed, unhappy, and things are crumbling around them, just being destroyed. Life is just falling apart. That's the mode of ignorance. We have to be aware of all these. And these forces are acting upon us all the time. And we have to know how to navigate them. Then we come to the elements of time. Now we come to the 9 basic elements. Let's take a look at that. Understanding the core components of material creation in the Bhagavatam. This section explores the fundamental elements, Jiva, Prakriti, and Mahat. So Krishna enumerates now the enjoying soul, nature, the Mahatattva, the false ego, and the 5 gross elements. He teaches that the soul is the true enjoyer, Purusha, and his enjoyment is through serving the Supreme Purusha. We think we are the enjoyer. This is actually needs to be seen properly. We think, this is the illusion, that we think we are the Purusha, we are the enjoyer, but actually no. We are here to be enjoyed by the Supreme Lord. I'll give you an idea. Things that are of a lower vibration than us are things that we see and experience and enjoy. But we are of a lower vibration than God. And we are therefore meant to be, and we cannot therefore see God. Until you come to that frequency, until you come to that frequency at which God is, you cannot see God. And in fact, you cannot get to that frequency except through the grace of a great spiritual master who is realized in and has that darshan of God. And only through that person can you actually see God, and will God even see you. Right? It's a grace, blessing. Only through that grace can it happen. So we are meant to be enjoyed by God. And we are meant to be seen by Him because He is that higher energy. We can see things of a lower energy. We can see things that are a lower frequency than ourselves. Yes, that is true. And we can understand those things even. And we can try to enjoy those things even. But when you understand that my existence is because of a higher force or God, and I am meant to be enjoyed by that higher force, and if I am the servant of that, if I am the part of that, if I am meant to be enjoyed by that, it is not my business to be enjoying the things of this world. These things were also meant for His purpose, they're His creation, meant for His enjoyment. Everything in this world exists for the enjoyment of God. We can enjoy it, but we need to first offer it to Him. We first need to see the connection. We need to move out of the way and stop seeing ourselves as the doer. Srila Prabhupada gives a wonderful example. He says, the hand nourishes itself by feeding the stomach. The hand cannot feed itself. The hand has to feed the stomach. When the soul feeds the Supreme Soul or God or Krishna through devotional service, all parts of existence are nourished. Forgetting this relationship creates the false ego and entanglement. So an example of this would be modern culture teaches us to consume, to enjoy. But the Bhagavatam teaches us to serve and then rejoice. Because when you're serving, you become truly happy. You experience that happiness which needs no cause, which is intrinsic. And we come to the 11 senses. There's a lot here, so thank you for bearing with me and trying to understand all of this. These are the 5 knowledge and 5 action senses, plus the mind. The subtle body comprises the 5 senses of knowledge and the 5 senses of action. This is the gross physical body, and then there is the subtle body made of mind, intelligence, and ego. So the 5 knowledge acquiring senses are hearing, touch, sight, taste, smell. The 5 working senses, speech, hands, legs, genitals, anus. We talked about this earlier. And the mind connects them both. 5 sense objects, sound, touch, form, taste, smell, complete the field of perception. Prabhupada writes that these create the arena of action, but the soul is the spectator. What a great example. Think of this arena, right? They used to have arenas like in Rome and in the time when they'd have the lions and the gladiators and all of that. So that was an arena. This world and all these senses that we have and all the objects that are there are the arena of action, but the soul is the spectator. Spectator means Sakshi, the witness. He's experiencing everything, not only witnessing. He's at the same time he's witnessing, but at the same time he's also experiencing everything. So the modern analogy might be something like virtual reality. We wear a headset and we believe we are inside another world. We forget we're wearing a device and the illusion is complete. Similarly, the mind-body complex is our VR system. And bhakti is the moment we remove the headset and now we see life as it is. The next part talks about the glance of the Supreme Lord. Now Krishna reveals how creation actually begins. He says, I do not enter into material interaction. I merely glance upon nature, and that glance, conscious, loving, potent, awakens Prakriti, nature, from slumber. So the whole creation actually occurs through his glance. He doesn't come into the material world. He doesn't enter into material interaction. He simply glances upon nature. And that conscious, loving glance awakens nature from slumber. And I don't just mean this as, going from winter to spring. I'm talking about creation at the very beginning. And from it arises the cosmic egg, the Brahmanda. Srila Prabhupada explains that this glance is not a physical look, but the Supreme Lord's will acting as time and consciousness. So to take this back to science, modern science, the Big Bang is the shadow of that divine glance. Matter expands because spirit wills it to be so. See, matter cannot move of its own. Only when spirit is present, like the soul is present within the body, then the body can move. Otherwise, the body cannot move. So matter expands because spirit wills it to be so. Creation is not a random explosion, but a purposeful invitation for souls to evolve back towards God. People talk about evolution. We are here for evolution, spiritual evolution. But what is that spiritual evolution and where is it headed? And here it becomes very clear. It's heading and bringing us back to that Supreme Being who is the source of all joy, of all pleasure, of all love, of all beauty, of all wisdom. That is where we're headed. That's where we need to align ourselves with that North Star. Now, there are many philosophers, as we were saying earlier, and they have many theories. This is earlier. Yeah, so there are many philosophers, and they have many, many different enumerations, alternate theories. We're exploring Krishna's logic behind various counts of elements now. So, after presenting his own enumeration, Krishna summarizes the others. He says, some say there are 7 elements, the 5 gross plus soul and supersoul, Paramatma. Others say there are 6, 5 gross and the Supreme. Srila Prabhupada notes that Krishna is so gracious. He accepts all sincere analyses that lead back to him. Philosophical brilliance is meant to end in devotion, not in pride. You understand this? Philosophical brilliance, you may be very brilliant philosopher, you may be very intelligent, very intellectual, but if it doesn't end in devotion, it will very likely end in pride. Intellectual diversity is beautiful when it is united by humility, when it is colored by, when it is laced by, when it is infiltrated by humility. Then intellectual diversity is wonderful because truth has many languages, but all those truths lead to God. When we see every idea as a ray of His intelligence, then argument turns into adoration. Now, Krishna also lists many more systems which have 4, 11, 13, 16, 17 elements. Different thinkers choose different causes or yet effects. Yet Krishna concludes, yet all these analyses are reasonable. True brilliance leads to me. Srila Prabhupada writes that one need not waste his life showing off intelligence on the material platform. Having known the ingredients, the wise seek the source, the Supreme Godhead. It's just like studying chemistry forever, but never tasting the meal, right? Just like you're trying to understand the chemistry of the food, but never tasting the food itself. The devotee goes beyond theory and builds a relationship with that Supreme Godhead. So now, then Uddhava asks a question about the body and soul and their apparent union. Uddhava asks, O Krishna, the soul and nature seem inseparable. Each appears to reside in the other. So like the soul resides in the body, but the body also resides in the soul. He says, please cut this doubt from my heart. Krishna answers that matter is ever changing while the soul is constant. Their apparent oneness is an illusion, born of contact like fire and iron. When iron is heated, it glows. Yet the glow belongs to the fire, not to the iron. Similarly, consciousness belongs to the soul. The body merely radiates the borrowed light. What a great analogy. When you put an iron rod in fire, it begins to glow like fire. It acts like fire even. Similarly, when consciousness is present, the soul is present within the body, it appears to be alive. But in fact, it is never alive. It is simply radiating the borrowed light of the soul. We may say, for example, that I'm young or I'm old, as though the self aged. But I am never young and I am never old. The soul does not get old with the body getting old. The soul does not get young. The soul is neither young nor old. It is eternal. It is ever youthful, just as God is. In truth, the body changes every moment, but the witness, the soul within, remains unchanged. Now, Krishna describes experience as being threefold, three different kinds of experience. The understanding the synergy between the I, the form, and the divine light. Let's explore that. So then he says there are three aspects of experience. Adhyatmik, which is internal, right? Comes from the word Atma, Adhyatmik. Adibhaudik, which comes from other people or external. And Adidaivik, which is divine. So sight, the object, and the presiding deity of work, together like the eye, form, and the sunlight. If the sun is self-luminous and independent, so too the Lord, the Supreme Lord, is the original light that makes all seeing possible. When we praise the eyes for beauty or the mind for intellect, we forget the true source. Brahma Samhita declares, Yat chakshuresha savita sakala grahanam. The sun is the eye of God. Now, let me see if we can break this down a little further. Phones, for example, display color only when they are backlit. Without the light, the screen is black. Consciousness is that divine backlit or backlight in every being. It's what makes us come alive. And although we may think that the eyes are perceiving the beauty or the intellect is understanding, we forget that all of this is happening because of the presence of the soul. And the soul is present because it is part of God and it's all connected. It's the soul's real goal is to try to understand God, not just come here and have experiences, as some people would say. That really brings us to the idea of false ego and illusion. So when the three modes of nature, the illusion of the self in material existence, when the three modes of nature, goodness, passion, ignorance, are stirred with time, they give rise to false ego. False ego can be there in goodness, it can be there in passion, it can be there in ignorance. And this becomes the root of duality. So the heart of all our entrapment in this world comes down to one simple thought. I am the doer. I am the enjoyer. The first step is I am this body, I am this mind, this identification is there. And then from here on, I'm here to enjoy. And to enjoy, I have to do so many things. So it's all interlinked. And this is all an aspect of the false ego. To renounce this false ego is how we begin the journey of Krishna consciousness and come back to our original state. Philosophers who debate the world is real or is it illusion are merely juggling dualities. So, for example, say Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. The Brahman, the divine, is satyam, is truth. And jagat, the world, is mithya, it is false, it is an illusion. This is that whole idea of the matrix as well, that everything here is illusion, and that only that divine source, that divine thing, that is real reality. But this is just juggling dualities. It's a beautiful way it's explained here. You're still looking at dualities, positive, negative, light, dark, illusion, reality. You're still juggling realities. Krishna says such argument is useless unless directed towards him. The world is real because it emanates from the real. He is the real. He is the ultimate reality. He is that param satyam, the absolute truth. And because he is real, the world is real. Everything that comes from the real is therefore also real. But it doesn't mean that it's not an illusion. At the same time, there is an illusion and there is a reality. We may say, oh, this is all an illusion. Well, if it's all an illusion, go stand in front of a truck. See what happens. See how much of an illusion it is. You'll find it's you will be dead. And there will be no, it will happen. Because it is not that kind of illusion. Your understanding of the illusion is illusory in itself. The world is real because it emanates from the real source. So in this world, we notice similar things: virtual worlds, social media avatars, illusions within illusions. Reality dawns when we log out of the self-image, of our self-image being the ego, and serve the Lord of all images, the source of all images. We don't need to just be locked up in our self-image. Next, he talks about karma and transmigration. Understanding the journey of the soul and its eternal cycle. Uddhava now asks how souls acquire bodies. And Krishna explains, the material mind bound to karmic work travels with the five senses from one body to another. The material mind, bound to its karma, travels with the senses from one body to another. So you mean these eyes, they go there? No. There's what's called the subtle body. And that subtle body consists of mind, intelligence, and ego. And everything you experience through these five senses, the impressions you gained from them, those travel from one body to another. And what determines that next body is the karma, the things you did in this life. So your mind, intelligence, and ego, based on your karma, and your karma is based upon what? Let's trace it down. It starts with your senses. Your senses gain certain impressions. Oh, I want this, I want that, I want to enjoy this, I want to enjoy that, I want to have this, I want to have that. So with these senses, your desires come about. And those desires then lead to your actions. Those actions then create your karma. That karma then creates your material existence and keeps you bound to this world. And then your soul travels from one body to another, taking with it the impressions of the senses and the desires and the karma, all of that from one body to another. And the soul is following along. As the mind broods or contemplates objects, those objects create impressions, sanskar. These impressions or sanskar form the blueprint for the next birth. Birth and death are simply forgetting and re-identifying, like dreaming and waking, forgetting and re-identifying. Srila Prabhupada writes, depending on karma, one obtains a beautiful or miserable body and forgets the previous one. An analogy might be changing clothes, or a dreamer who forgets last night's dream. Death is only a costume change in the eternal play of consciousness. Next, he talks about birth and the dream. Birth, says Krishna, is the total identification of the soul with the new body. It is like believing a dream is real while we dream it. So when you're born, you forget your previous lives, just as one forgets earlier dreams. Sometimes by jati smara or mystic power, one recalls, proving the rule by exception. So some people naturally are able to recall their past life, especially when they're very young. Also through past life regression, we're able to take them to where they can remember their past lives. But otherwise, as such, there is no arrangement for that. That is not, you're not supposed to remember, just so that you can be immersed in this illusion of this life. So the mind paints high, middle, and low situations. Like this is better, this is middle, this is worse. Like a father troubled by a wayward son, the soul, though pure, suffers through identification. See, because of our identification with this is good and this is bad, this is desirable and this is undesirable. A fancy home is more desirable, a hut or tent is undesirable. That's poverty. A fancy restaurant is wonderful, but just, eating some leftovers from a few days ago, not so desirable. All kinds of things. We want those fancy car, not some broken down car. Like that. So we create these ideas. Our mind creates these ideas of high, middle, and low situations. But the soul, though pure, suffers because of this thinking, because of this identification. Think of it another way. We create inner heavens and hells daily through our imagination. But spiritual practice is about waking up from the long dream of I am this body. Next, we go into a discussion about time and transformation. Material bodies are constantly created and destroyed by imperceptible time. Krishna compares this to a flame, a river, and a fruit. Always changing, never still. Right? The flame constantly changing, never still. A river constantly moving, never still. A fruit constantly changing, never the same. It's hard, ripens, and then it gets stale and old, and now you have to throw it away if you haven't eaten it. So the candle's light flickers, the river's waters flow, the fruits ripen and rot. Likewise, the body transforms moment by moment. Only the soul endures. And if you wondered about that, think about it. There was a time when you were a child. You thought, that is me. Then you were a teenager. You thought, this is me. When you were in your 20s, you thought, this is me. When you were in your 30s, 40s, 50s, you thought, this is me. This body, this is me. But the body had been changing all along. You remained the same person. So those who identify with each passing stage, child, adult, elder, speak falsely, saying, this is me. They are mrishya yusham, people wasting life in illusion. Another way to think of this would be awareness of time is painful, yet purifying. So on one hand, it's painful to think, I once used to be a child and I had so much energy and I looked so great and I was so wonderful and I was so happy. It can be painful to think that that time is gone. And yet it is purifying because it reminds us to use every moment to understand, to serve, and to love God. That is the only way out of this illusion, out of this cycle of birth and death. He then talks about the illusion of birth and death. He says, fire exists perpetually, but when it touches wood, it seems to begin and then end. So to the soul, meaning the fire was already there in the wood. But when you take some more fire and you touch it to the wood, the fire that was in the wood, the element that was in the wood, now bursts out. And so it appears to have a beginning and it appears to have an end. But actually the fire was always there in the wood. The potential to burn was always there in the wood. So too the soul is eternal, though it appears to be born and die. This whole loop is set up by karma. Karma is the loop of illusion, each act breeding another. One act leading to another, then that one we react to that, and it leads to another, to another, to another, and we keep on staying caught in this loop. Krishna consciousness, God consciousness, breaks that loop by replacing material acts with loving, devotional service to God. Krishna lists 9 stages of the body, from impregnation through death. And so we may see the pattern and detach. By watching the birth of a child and the death of elders, a wise person infers his own journey and seizes fear. See, that's in the Bhagavad Gita, he says the same thing. The wise lament neither for the living nor the dead. It's such a profound statement. We lament for both the living and the dead. But a wise person infers from watching the birth of a child and the death of elders and realizes that no, the soul is eternal. I too have been in this cycle. I too will keep going on in this cycle. But I do not die. You do not die. None of us dies. Death is the illusion. So one who sees a tree sprouting and withering knows the witness is different from the tree. The witness is the soul. Then they talk about conditioned perception. The ignorant fail to distinguish the self from matter, and thus they become bewildered. Meaning, we fail to distinguish that the self, the witness, the soul, is different from this body. And we identify with the body. I'm young, I'm old, I'm man, I'm woman, I'm fat, I'm thin, I'm ugly, I'm beautiful, I'm smart, I'm stupid. All of that is identification with matter. But we are not matter. But when we identify with matter, we become bewildered. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, chapter 7, text 5 echoes, Yaya sumohito jiva atmanam tri gunatmakam. The soul thinks itself a product of the modes. So we begin to think that we are a product of this world. By contact with goodness, one becomes a sage or deva, demigod. With passion, one becomes a human or an asura. With ignorance, one becomes an animal or a ghost. The soul itself never changes, only its dress changes. An analogy could be there of an actor wearing roles according to script, but the director is karma. The drama ends when the actor turns to the true director, the producer of the show, Krishna. Then he talks about the imitator soul. Just as one imitates singers and dancers one admires, the soul captivated by material intelligence imitates its qualities. The body acts, the modes perform, but the deluded soul says, I am doing this, I am doing that, or I cannot do this, or I can do this. Trees reflected in agitated water appear to tremble. So if the water in a river or a lake is agitated and there's a reflection of a tree, it appears that the tree is trembling. But what is actually trembling is just the reflection on the water. The tree itself is standing still. Trees reflected in agitated water appear to tremble, yet they stand still. Our so-called experiences are reflections on the water of mind. An example in this world might be a gamer moving an avatar, feels, I scored. In reality, pixels moved. The player only watched. Likewise, we mistake this body's actions for ours. And they talk about the persistence of illusion. Even after learning that the world is unreal, the taste of sense enjoyment lingers. So you may have heard all this. Does that mean that the taste for sense enjoyment will go away? No. Like a dream that haunts after waking, Krishna warns that the illusion continues for one who is addicted to pleasure. All of us are addicted to pleasure. All of us want to feel good. All of us want to do those things that bring us pleasure. Nice food, nice clothing, nice house, nice sex, nice everything that gives us pleasure. We're constantly chasing it, and we are addicted to it. And it is this constant hunt for pleasure that carries us right from childhood all the way to old age. Prabhupada says, although material life is false, it stubbornly continues for the sense addicted. So on the path of bhakti, we are taught we must start cutting off our attachment to sensual enjoyment, because that's what's keeping us locked in this cycle of birth and death. And the more we start to pull away, the more we see through the sensual pleasures of this world and reduce them or eliminate them if possible, then the more we become free and we become happy. So the only cure is actually positive engagement, using our senses. See, we can't stop using our senses. We can't stop wanting to enjoy our senses. It's very hard. You'll find it almost impossible. But there is a positive way to do this, and that is to use our senses in serving Krishna, to see everything that we have as his property. Everything that we do is for his pleasure. Everything we eat is done as an offering to him, is first offered to him. And when we start to then dovetail or connect everything with him, and see that everything is meant for his pleasure, then we can also enjoy. But we have connected it in the right way. Just as a servant first feeds the master of the house, then eats. Just as if you have a dog, you first eat and then you feed your dog. That should be the right way for someone who wants to maintain that proper position as the master, right? So the same thing applies here. When we first offer everything to God for his pleasure, then we also enjoy. We are here to serve him. Jivera Swarup, our natural nature is to serve. And our greatest place of service is to serve God. Otherwise, we're going to serve our country, we're going to serve our family, we're going to serve our boss, we're going to serve this body, the mind, the senses, our desires. We're serving all the time. Why not serve God? Eat as an offering, speak as glorification, work as worship. Then duality of mine and thine vanishes. And finally, Krishna speaks about tolerance. He says, even when insulted, beaten, tied, spat upon, or humiliated, one who is seeking life's highest goal should remain steady, keeping the mind on that spiritual platform, on that goal. Now, Uddhava admits this seems impossible. He says, only your devotees who are fixed in service at your lotus feet can bear such offenses. Fixed means nishtha, who is totally rooted in serving Krishna. Only they can bear such offenses, but the rest of us, we're not there. So Srila Prabhupada explains that tolerance is the fragrance of true devotion. Learning alone cannot make one saintly. Only hearing and chanting about Krishna with faith softens the heart. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Trinadapi sunichena tarorapi sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. If you want to chant the name of God constantly, if you want to remember God constantly, manmana bhavamad bhakto, then you need to develop humility. That even if someone insults you, amanina, that is the word Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used, who does not offer review respect, in fact, who disrespects you. If someone, Krishna goes even further to say someone insults you, someone beats you, someone spits upon you, humiliates you, amanina, manadena. Give that person respect and ask for no respect in return. This is how you smash the ego. Is it hard? Absolutely. Is it impossible? It definitely feels so. Because the ego is always wanting to defend. But when you understand there's nothing to defend, this ego is just a false creation of the mind, maybe we might be able to do it. I know it's challenging. So Krishna says, even when insulted, beaten, tied, spat upon, or humiliated, one seeking life's highest goal should remain steady, keeping the mind on the spiritual platform. Because learning alone cannot make one saintly. Only hearing and chanting with faith softens the heart. So one way to understand this would be how you notice in the world around you, people are quick to outrage. However, the devotee practices divine restraint, not weakness, which is not weakness, but power anchored in love. Such a person sees even enemies as teachers and even hardship as purification. All right, that was an extensive chapter, number 22 from the 11th canto. And just to kind of give it a little summary here, you can see that from the cosmic analysis to personal transformation, the thread is one. All elements, all thoughts, and lives exist within the Supreme Godhead, Shri Krishna. When we see Him as both the beginning and the end, philosophy becomes devotion and knowledge becomes love. So how do we get to all this? Just simply chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for your presence. See you next Tuesday. Hare Krishna.